Hey, good evening, everybody, and welcome back once again to Answers on Eschatology. My name is Dan Derry, and I'm the president of the Institute of Fulfilled Eschatology. Well, we are in the midst of a study on Matthew chapter 24, and we want to continue on in verse 14 with the phrase, the gospel of the kingdom. And we demonstrated last video that this great commission, this preaching of the gospel of the kingdom into all the world, to every nation, must have been limited to a first century generation in a first century context. After all, that's exactly what Jesus said in Matthew 24:34, that all these things will be fulfilled within his generation. But outside of that, we demonstrated that this gospel of the kingdom was a twofold message that we showed from Mark chapter 1 and Matthew chapter 16. And Mark chapter 1, verses 14 and 15, Jesus said that this gospel, he said that the good news was that the kingdom of heaven was at hand. Repent and believe the gospel. So the gospel of the kingdom, the good news of the kingdom was that the kingdom was at hand. But that's not it. Matthew 27, 28, Jesus said that that kingdom that had drawn near in those days was to be established in the lifetime of his disciples. Jesus said, "Verily I say to you, some of you standing here won't taste death until you see the Son of Man coming in his kingdom." So the gospel of the kingdom, the message of the kingdom, was that the kingdom would be established in the lifetime of the first century generation. That puts the Great Commission, which is the proclamation of the gospel of the kingdom, in a first century context. It has to be. We can't preach a Great Commission today that places the establishment of the kingdom in the first century. Are you with me? That makes no sense today. Does that mean we don't preach a gospel today? No, that doesn't mean that. It's just not the same commission. It's not a gospel of the kingdom proclaiming the end of the age and the establishment of the kingdom to come. It's the gospel, and it's the good news that the kingdom has been established, the old covenant age has ended, and Messiah has come, and we have received the kingdom, which is where I want to go today. So, some would object, many would object to everything I just said. However, I want to further prove what I just said. So, like I said, many would object to this on the grounds of Matthew chapter 16, verses 27 and 28. And they would say, well, that's not really a prophecy of Jesus' second coming. Jesus was, he was prophesying what would happen at 6 days later on the Mount of Transfiguration. Or this was Pentecost when the kingdom came in power, etc. So what I want to do in this video is I want to demonstrate that Matthew 16, 27, and 28 was a prophecy, and Jesus was predicting his final coming and the establishment, the full establishment of his messianic kingdom that would come in that generation in 70 AD. Okay? Now, how I want to do that is I want to tie that text, Matthew 16, 27, 28, to Daniel chapter 7, which is what Jesus was quoting. I should say it's one of the texts that Jesus was quoting. We're going to look at several different texts which will prove definitively that Matthew 16, 27, and 28 is and was prophetic of Jesus' final kingdom coming, okay? Not a Pentecost coming, not a vision of his coming, as was the Transfiguration, but his final parousia, the full establishment at the kingdom at the quote-unquote second coming of the Lord. Now, go with me to Daniel chapter 7. And, give me a second. Daniel chapter 7. And let's read this, and let's notice where Daniel places the second coming of the Lord, the final coming and the establishment of the kingdom. Daniel 7, let's go to 1 to 3. In the first year of Belshazzar, king of Babylon, Daniel saw a dream and visions in his mind as he lay on his bed. He wrote the dream down and related the following summary of it. Daniel said, I was looking in my night in my vision by night, and behold, the four winds of heaven were stirring upon the great sea. Watch this. And four great beasts were coming up out of the sea, different one from another. So this vision is about four beasts, not five, not six, not three, four beasts. Look at let's go down to verse 7. After this, I kept looking in the night visions, and behold, a fourth beast. Okay, that's all I wanted to see from that text. Is again, this is about the fourth beast. Jump down to verse 13 and 14. Daniel says, I kept looking in the night visions, and behold, with the clouds of heaven, one like the Son of Man was coming. This is Matthew 16:28 and 27. Jesus says, the Son of Man will come in the glory of his Father with his angels, and then he will reward every man according to his works. Some of you standing here won't taste death until you see the Son of Man coming in his kingdom. This is the coming of the Son of Man of Daniel 7. Listen again, Daniel 7:13. I kept looking in the night visions, and behold, with the clouds of heaven, one like the Son of Man was coming, and came up to the Ancient of Days, and was presented before him, and to him was given dominion, glory, and a kingdom, that all peoples, nations, and every men of every language might serve him. His dominion is an everlasting dominion which will not pass away, and his kingdom is one which will not be destroyed. So the coming of the Son of Man to receive his kingdom was in the days of the fourth beast of Daniel's vision. The fourth beast, guys, is Rome. It's the Roman Empire, which is universally admitted by every paradigm, okay? Jump down with me, though. Notice, not only did Jesus the Messiah receive his kingdom in the days of the fourth beast, but so did the saints. Look at verses 15 to 18. As for me, Daniel, my spirit was distressed within me, and the visions in my mind kept alarming me. I approached one of those who was standing by and began asking him the exact meaning of all this. So he told me and made known to me the interpretation of these things. These great beasts, which are four in number, there it is again, four beasts, are four kings who will arise from the earth. But the saints of the highest one will receive the kingdom and possess the kingdom forever, for all ages to come. So, at the time when Messiah received his kingdom, in the days of those four beasts, in the days of the fourth beast, the saints would receive the kingdom. Remember, the gospel of the kingdom now is the gospel or the good news of the message that kingdom would be established in the lifetime of Jesus' disciples. Matthew 16:27 and 28. But Jesus was quoting Daniel chapter 7, which Daniel places the time of the coming of the Lord and the establishment of the kingdom in the days of the fourth beast, the Roman Empire, which was and existed in the first century. But watch this. Go with me to Hebrews chapter 12. And remember, Daniel 7 says that not only would Messiah receive the kingdom in the days of the fourth beast, but so would the saints. And look what Hebrews chapter 12 says. This is amazing. Hebrews 12, just for time's sake, I will read verses 26 to 28. And his voice shook the earth then, but now he has promised, saying, yet once more I will shake not only the earth, but also heaven. This expression, yet once more, denotes the removing of those things which can be shaken, which was the old covenant world, as of created things, so that those things which cannot be shaken may remain, the new covenant things, the new covenant world. Therefore, are you with me? Therefore, because the old was being removed, and the new, the unshakable covenant was being established, therefore, since we are receiving a kingdom which cannot be shaken. Hebrews 12:28. Guys, at that time, in the first century, in the days of the fourth beast, they were receiving the kingdom. The saints were receiving the kingdom which would be given to no other person. Daniel chapter 7. So listen, this is the picture. The gospel of the kingdom was the message that the kingdom would be established in the lifetime of Jesus' disciples. And that's Matthew 16:27 and 28, which was a quotation of Daniel chapter 7, which Daniel even placed that kingdom at the coming of the Lord in the days of the Roman Empire, the fourth beast, which is the first century generation. And in fulfillment of Daniel chapter 7 and Matthew chapter 16:27 and 28, the writer of Hebrews tells his Hebrew readers that they were at that time receiving the kingdom through the establishment of the new covenant world. Man, that's good stuff. And that places the gospel of the kingdom in the lifetime of Jesus' first century disciples. It has been established, the kingdom has come, and that gospel has did go out into all the world, to every nation, with the proclamation that the end was coming and the new was about to be received. That's it for this time, guys. We'll pick it up next time. We'll have more to say on the gospel of the kingdom. Bye for now.